welcome to Feminism in the Kitchen. Oh, that made such a big mess. I was not expecting that. Also, we don't need flour for the recipe. Hey everybody, welcome to Feminists in the Kitchen. I'm Abby, and I'm a feminist. You probably understand the kitchen part of the show, as in many houses do contain a kitchen where you cook, but you're probably a bit concerned of what is a feminist? Well, feminism is the idea that we should end sexist oppression. We believe that women and men have equal worth in society, but the institutions in play make it so that men have more power than women. For example, women usually only make about 77 cents for every dollar a man makes. A lot of survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault are women. And in general, we usually objectify women and place all their value as sexual beings rather than being as a whole. And you might be thinking, aren't feminism those hairy lesbians out there? No. And we're going to debunk that myth and several other myths in this show using fruit salad. So, to start off with, we're going to start off with the idea that feminists are angry. Like this apple, feminists are thought to be angry and that they're blowing their oppression out of proportion. So, apples are both hard on the inside and on the outside. Ah! But in reality, we should be like this pineapple. Women have a wide range of emotions. Like pineapples, they can be angry on the outside, but they have a lot to be angry about. The fact that we are viewed only as sexual objects. Our main role is as mothers. We have to do a lot of things that men kind of don't have to do. So, in reality, women have a lot of emotions. Like pineapple. Hard on the outside, sweet on the inside. Ka-cha! Whoa, that was beautiful. And now I'm going to cut up this apple because that's going to take a lot longer than I expected. So you might be wondering, what is the purpose of this show, Abby? Are you just cooking your lunch for the week? Yes and no. Well, I am cooking for the week so I can eat on campus instead of spending money. I'm also thinking about how, just talking about feminism while we cook, because I feel a lot of conversations happen around food. It's when we discuss what's going on in our lives, what's important to us, and food is a great equalizer. We like to eat food. We like to talk about food. So a lot of the food in my show will be represented by metaphors for different issues in feminism. And I'm sorry I'm putting the knife at the camera. That's really violent. Sorry. Okay, so the next idea that we're going to talk about is the idea that feminists are hairy and anti-feminine. So like these Kiwis, we're thought that feminists don't shave their legs. I can prove to you right now, I did shave my legs this morning. They're really silky smooth. But does it really matter if we shave our legs or not? Some feminists do shave their legs, some of them don't. It doesn't really matter whether you're hairy on the outside or not. What really matters is that on the inside, you're fighting for equality. And it doesn't matter if you want to be feminine or anti-feminine. It's more about fighting for equality in whatever way floats your boat. And as I'm holding up this kiwi, I'm not really sure if we're supposed to put the skin in there, but I'm not at the same time sure how we're going to peel it. So this is a work in progress, as it is the first episode. And you know what? There's just this myth that feminists are just all-around ugly people. I slightly cut myself. But in reality, that's not true. There's a lot of pretty feminists, and it shouldn't matter. Whose idea of pretty are we thinking about? Abby, am I pretty?
Yes.
Oh, I was thinking she was going to say no for a second. Yeah, but it doesn't matter, and that there's different types of beauty. And a lot of the times when we think about what beauty is, we're thinking it through a male lens. So the idea that you have to be really busty, the idea that you should be white, and that white is the acceptable form of beauty as compared to other forms. I'm really not sure how to cut these kiwis, so when we view this in class, you can all make fun of me. And as we put all these fruits into the bowl of what feminism actually looks like, I think it's really important to talk about that there are many different types of feminism. And one feminism, or one type of feminism, isn't better than the rest. They're just different. It's a lot like, you know, different forms of Christianity. There you got your Baptist, your Lutheran, your Catholic, and they all have different beliefs, but they still share the same goal. And in feminism's case, that is the idea that we should end sexist oppression. And a lot of feminism these days focuses on not just ending sexist oppression, but all different forms of oppression, because we realize that, you have your apples and your kiwis, and these are all different types of people. And they all share different identities, whether it be race, class, or gender. And we can't liberate all women unless we focus on things such as race and class, and sexuality as well. So that's important to keep in mind as I finish cutting up this kiwi. This is going to be one interesting fruit salad. I'm going to tell you this right now. So the next idea, which is probably one of the most common myths within feminism, is that feminism hates men. And obviously men have to be represented by a phallic object, just because what else are we going to use? And a lot of times, like I said, it's this idea that feminists hate men, but in reality we can't have feminism without men. A lot of feminists really try and explain the idea that this sexist oppression not only hurts women, but it also hurts men. At the same time that women are supposed to be passive and overly emotional, men are supposed to be overtly violent and only show aggressive behaviors like being angry or hitting. And this is really detrimental to men as it is to women. So the whole idea is that we need to work together to end these horrible stereotypes that are associated with men and women. And I'm sorry I'm cutting up the phallic object, but I can't just throw a whole banana in there. So we really need men as allies to the movement, and I definitely think that men can be feminists, and they should be, because do you only want a certain type of woman who is passive, can't think for herself, and stuck in the kitchen? Well, if you do want that, you should really rethink your values. Alright, now it comes to my favorite myth, the idea that all feminists are lesbians. But like this tomato, which is both a fruit and a vegetable depending on how you look at it, I identify as bi, which I guess means you're half right. But in reality, yeah, some feminists are lesbians, some feminists are straight, some feminists are both, and some feminists have no sexuality whatsoever, and it doesn't really matter. Think about what you're saying if you're saying all feminists are lesbians. You're kind of discounting lesbians as a whole, and you're making them seem less than or worse than straight people, which is kind of crappy to begin with. So it doesn't matter what your sexuality is, you can still identify as a feminist, and a lot of feminists do help out with and are a part of the feminist movement, because we realize that, like I said before, we need to help all women, not just straight, white, middle-class women. And you might be asking, Abby, are you really going to put that tomato in your fruit salad? And I say, yes. Yes, I am. But I'm also going to eat a bite, too. So, because tomatoes are fruit. And we need to stop thinking of it as a vegetable. Because tomatoes, they're put into these preconceived boxes of, this is what a tomato is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a vegetable. Therefore, it's not allowed to hang out with the fruits. That's not a good idea. And like that, we can't just define what men and women are supposed to be through these narrow little boxes that they won't fit. If a tomato wants to do feminine activities, it should be able to. If a tomato wants to do masculine activities, it should be able to. You know, let a tomato be a tomato. Or a tomato. So the next myth I have is the idea that feminists want to be better than men. And that's not true. And normally this would be an apples to oranges situation. However, I already used up my apple and I didn't have any oranges. So we're going to do this with strawberries and blueberries. So blueberries, these are men, and these strawberries, they represent women. And a lot of ideas or myths surrounding feminism is the idea that feminists want to be better than men, and that they want to create a women-centered society and men should be kept underground for breeding. This isn't true. I think we just want to have equal worth compared to men. And this comes from the idea that we don't want to be equal to men because there's a lot of things women need that men don't need. For example, a lot of women choose to carry a baby in their uteruses for 9 months. And men can't really do that, at least not yet with the current technology. So we need certain things in place to focus on those different ideas and needs. So we just really want to have women and men be seen as equals within society and have all of their needs met without thinking that one is necessarily better than the other. So I'm cutting up these strawberries. Oh, this is beautiful fruit salad, everybody. And if you ever want the recipes that I'm making, they're going to be on YouTube in the little box below. And if you're watching this video somewhere other than YouTube, I'm sorry, you should go on YouTube and find my recipes. And you can make them on your own. Cutting up strawberries. Yeah. Somebody's home, so we should pause the camera. Alright, put them all in. Good job. Oh. So the blueberries were originally supposed to represent men in the feminist movement, but I think this shows that women and feminists can like children too. We're not anti-kids, right? See, you want to show the camera what you did? Look, you put all those blueberries in there. Yay! Okay. This is the joy of living with 4 other people. You never know what's going to happen on camera. So with that in mind, we're going back to our salad, which the blueberries now represent motherhood and how feminists can be mothers and can like kids. Yeah. And so for our final ingredient is French vanilla pudding, which I don't really understand why it's in this recipe, but it told me I should put it in there. And this French vanilla pudding represents the fact that there's this really, common myth within feminism that it is strictly a white middle-class woman's movement, which is slightly true when you look at the racist and transphobic history, and some of it's still kind of lingering on today within the feminist movement. However, a lot of feminists who identify within the third wave, which I myself do, is the idea that feminists need to be inclusive of all women, regardless of whether they have vaginas or not, or whether or not they are what race or ethnicity, religion, sexuality. We should be inclusive of all women because we're fighting for all women's rights, not just the rights of white middle-class feminists. So with that, we're going to throw this in here, but notice that this is not the only type of pudding we could have thrown in here. We could put in chocolate pudding, but that would have tasted weird, pistachio pudding, all sorts of puddings to represent all different types of feminists that are included in the movement. So we throw this in here, and we're going to stir it up. No, I don't want this one. I want this wooden one. And with that, we realize that feminism represents a whole lot of different women's views and needs. And while these myths are really permeant in our society based on the media, and people who just disagree with feminism, they're not true. And that feminists really are fighting for not just women's equality, but everyone's equality. So if you thought to yourself, hey, I kind of, I want to fight for women's rights. I believe that women should be equal to men. Maybe you should think about considering yourself a feminist. And with that, this French vanilla pudding kind of smells weird, so that's a better reason why it can't be just a white middle class movement, but include all people's movements. And also, putting the tomatoes in here was probably a bad choice. But cooking's an experiment, just like feminism. You don't always get it right on the first try. You have to try different things and continue your knowledge, whether it be the proper way how to make a fruit salad, which honestly I've never made before, or if it's just, going out to your library, meeting with different organizations who call themselves feminists and learning what they're all about. That's all I have this week. Tune in next week for another episode of Feminists in the Kitchen. And look at this fruit salad. It needs to be, put in the fridge and cool before we can eat it. And I'll let you know how it tastes in our outtakes. So, bye everybody. See you later, Internet.